South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome in from Studio B in Las Vegas, Nevada. It is Sports by the Book here at the South Point. We're thrilled to be with you, Jeff Parles, Ryan McCormick. By the way, give everyone a better angle. Ryan McCormick tonight, with arguably the best game of the NFL regular season,
had to rep,
is wearing a Chicago Bears polo out of protest here.
Best team in the NFC North, baby.
Oh, man.
Lost all three straight weeks to every team in the division by a combined 7 points.
That honestly is very impressive. It's very good. Look, horseshoes and hand grenades. I mean, it's pretty good. But, of course, we got a great game tonight. And, you know, we always throw out that game of the year moniker. We throw it out at least 14 times during an NFL season. We threw it out with Bills Chiefs a few weeks ago. Honestly, people were throwing it out with Chiefs Ravens in week one.
Very first game of the year.
Very first game of the year. It's a game of the year. Why are we tuning in the rest of the way? But, you know, it's this is a great game tonight. Any way you slice it. It's 11-1 Detroit. It's 9-3 Green Bay. This is, Ryan, just a phenomenal game, and it's been a phenomenal betting game here at the South Point. Our good friend Vinny Magliulo will be with us likely in 20 minutes, but that time is malleable today, so please stick around. But this has been a tremendous betting game here at the South Point. 3.5, 3. Total's been bet up 1.5. But, Ryan, Detroit is number one in both of our power rankings. Sorry to spoil that for everyone.
Yeah.
And the Packers are in the top 6 for me. They would be in the top 6 for you if you did not have your anti-Green Bay bias that you have. But this is really just a tremendous game to kick off Week 14. And quite frankly, this game needs to be the game of the week, because if else, or else, I don't know what will be, because this week is kind of lacking after tonight.
Yeah, this has been a great week. This would be a great way to start the week. And kind of looking at the NFL schedule, it really says that look forward to conference championships tomorrow and Saturday in college football instead of at the NFL slate. But as Jeff mentioned, these are two of the top teams in the National Football League, not just in the NFC, but in the National Football League as a whole. We have the Lions as the best team in the National Football League. But yeah, so the Lions are the best team in football, and on paper, the Lions should win this one easy. They have the best offense in the National Football League, scoring over half a point per play. They're the only team in the National Football League to have over a half a point per play, and they average 64 plays per game, which would mean 32 points per game, which is, again, the highest in the National Football League. But the Packers do have a top 10 defense. They have the 8th best defense in terms of points allowed per play at 0.331. So the difference between the Lions offense and the Packers defense is a 0.17 in terms of points per play. And then you look at the flip side, the Packers offense compared to the Lions defense. The Packers offense is the 7th best in the National Football League at 0.433 points per play. And the Lions defense allows 0.28 points per play, which is 3rd best in the league. So really the difference, 0.17 Lions offense to Packers defense, and then Lions defense to Packers offense, again, 0.152 in favor of the Lions. So the math would kind of say that there's going to be 40.25 points in this game. And these two teams played a little over a month ago. And that one had a total, or the Lions were 3-point favorites or 2.5-point favorites in Green Bay. The total was 48.5. And tonight we're looking at Lions -3. So no real home field swing there. Basically the same favorite that they were in Green Bay.
Right.
And then the total is higher, 4 points now that we're in a dome. And I know the weather was the case in Green Bay then. But even still, that game went under 24-14. The only touchdown thrown by Jordan Love in that game was to Kirby Joseph, the Detroit Lions safety. So if you look at the history or what the math would say in this game, it would be a lean to the under for me in this one. But again, it's the Lions indoors, the best offense in the National Football League, and a division rivalry game. So it's completely up in the air.
So let's look. You just mentioned a few data points from that game on November 3rd. 24-14 was the final. Like you said, easy under, and really was a no sweat under when it was all said and done. Yep. Weather was awful weather. Yep. It was windy. It was rainy. Detroit's offense didn't have to do anything in that game. Jared Goff had a season-low 145 passing yards in that game. If you look at the running backs, Packers actually did okay handling David Montgomery in that game, about 4 yards per carry. Gibbs had an efficient game, 11 for 65 in the score, so just about 6 yards a pop for Jahmyr Gibbs. Look, this is a Green Bay defense that is also without their best secondary player tonight. Jaire Alexander is still out with that leg injury.
Yep.
But I have to imagine that Jordan Love is going to be better in this game than he was that first go-around. Second time.
It's hard to be worse.
Well, I mean, look, Love in that game was 23 of 39 for 273 and a pick six.
Yep.
And realistically speaking,
pick six at a crucial spot, too.
Well, that was the end of the half. That basically put the game away and made it from a 10-3 to a 17-3, and then Detroit just pinned their ears back and did what they needed to do and controlled that game the rest of the way. But this is a different Green Bay team today than it was a month ago to me. Jordan Love, remember, the week before that, got hurt for the 3rd time this year in Jacksonville. Clearly not 100% in that Detroit game. Then at the bye week, Love was not 100% himself against the Bears. That, I think, was a big reason for that game being as tight as it was. The last 2 weeks, Jordan Love has played his best football. Now, especially last week, where, again, this is a big difference in competition. I need to throw that out there because people love the Dolphins. But Detroit is the best team in football. The Dolphins are borderline a top half of the NFL team. So this is a big step up in class tonight for the Green Bay Packer offense. But Jordan Love was awesome last week, and he got nothing out of Josh Jacobs a week ago. Chris Brooks was the most effective. Well, Emmanuel Wilson only had 2 carries, but you look at it, Jacobs had 19 for 43. The Dolphins did a tremendous job on Jacobs, who had been one of the better additions this offseason across the NFL. But this is a big step up tonight for Green Bay. And even with that being the case, though, for me, I think they're ready for the task. This has been a weird rivalry over the years. Remember last year, Detroit went to Green Bay on a Thursday night early in the year and ran Green Bay out of Lambeau Field. What happened later in the season? Green Bay went to Detroit on Thanksgiving and hammered Detroit in that game.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the Lions right now have a 3-year winning streak in Lambeau, which we can probably check and count on our hands the amount of times that's happened in the existence of the Lions. Green Bay, again, won there last year. This is a wonky rivalry. And look, if you got the 3.5, job well done. I said it this morning on a morning version of this. I like the Packers plus the 3 too, and I like a little bit of the money line with Green Bay as well. We'll get into the injuries in a second on the Detroit side, but that defense is battered And part of the reason your Bears played as well as they did in the second half last week is Caleb Williams took advantage of the injuries, and there's no reason to think that Jordan Love won't be able to do the same.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bears really kind of gave that game away, but I'm kind of going to add on to your points that you just made. So in the last month, the Lions played 3 straight AFC South opponents. The Texans, they ended up beating by 3 in that comeback win. Of course, Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions in the first half. Then they bludgeoned the Jaguars 52-6. They handled the Colts 24-6, and then they escaped last week on Thanksgiving versus the Bears. They have 2 against the spread wins versus bad teams, 2 against the spread losses versus competitive teams. And I know you want to say, well, Ryan, the Bears lost to the Colts in week 3. Yeah, the play callers for the Bears in week 3 were Shane Waldron and Matty Eberflus. Both are since relieved of their duties. And that also was, I personally think, could be Caleb Williams' career high for a very long time in pass attempts. The kid was in his 3rd game of his NFL career, and Shane Waldron had him throw 52 pass attempts. No, that's not a winning recipe for someone so young in the league. But anyway, my point being with that, the Lions aren't playing their best football as of late. And the Packers, to Jeff's point, might be. And I know the argument is that they were at home for 2 straight weeks. Yeah, they beat the Niners and Dolphins, who are 2 limping teams in the National Football League right now. But they still put up 30-plus points in both games. That's hard to do in the National Football League. And they won both of those games handily. And then if you take it out of Green Bay, they're 4-0 on the road this year. So as well as under Matt LaFleur, as a road underdog, they are 17-8 against the spread.
It's good.
It's pretty good at covering the number. Not necessarily winning those games, but covering the number. Since LaFleur took over in 2019, the Packers are 6-5 against the Lions, 3-2 in Detroit. And you had brought up the all-time rivalry, just kind of how funky it's been recently with the Lions actually getting a little bit of dominance back. So all-time, the series is 106, 77, and 7 in favor of the Cheeseheads. 91 of those games have taken place in Detroit. The Lions have won 45 of them, meaning that they are 45,
1 game under,
44-2. So
wow.
1 game
2
above.
ties. Very nice.
But yeah, still a below 500 winning percentage in their own building against division rival. I did look at the Bears numbers. Don't ask me. If the Lions win tonight, it'll be the first time since 1983 that the Lions beat the Packers in 6 of 7 meetings, which is just 2 years before the Super Bowl Shuffle. So get ready for that coming in 2 years. Anyway, the road team has won 4 straight in this matchup. If the Packers win tonight and win on the road, it'll be the 13th time in 96 seasons that both games in the season were won by the road team. Obviously, 4 straight road wins, meaning that it happened last year. But the most recent times before last year were 2015 and 1990. I can give you the other years, but don't want to waste your time with that. So with all that being said, it is a division rivalry. The Lions aren't playing their best football. I tend to go with the team from Wisconsin plus the points, but I used to have a shirt that I wore religiously as a kid, and it was one of my favorites that said, my 2 favorite teams are the Bears and anyone else who beats the Packers. So go Lions.
Well, we'll get to the power rankings later. Just throwing that out there. Looking at, again, I'm on Green Bay. Ryan is rooting against the Packers as he usually does.
But I could see it.
Yeah. Anytime touchdown market tonight. I don't advocate for this very often. What I'm going to advocate for here tonight. And this was very good 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
With not the last week, but the 2 previous weeks it hit. Now, granted, the opponents were much worse in Indianapolis and that Jacksonville debacle of all debacles.
Yeah.
But I think both Detroit running backs get in tonight. And it's weird to say with a game where I like Green Bay, but the Lions are going to get theirs tonight. I don't think this is going to play, at least on the Detroit offense, and like it did in Lambeau, where they were under 5 yards per play. They didn't do much in that game because they didn't have to do much in that game. But if you pop those 2 together, you're getting plus money. You're getting a reasonable plus money price on Montgomery and Gibbs. Make sure you get a book that doesn't take away or helps themselves out with the way it's juiced on the same game parlay stuff. But that would be one way to look at it on the anytime touchdown market. There really is not much long shot wise that I really like tonight. I guess the best one is Emmanuel Wilson at plus 750, but he's not going to get many red zone carries here tonight in order to get that home, Brian.
Yeah, the one long shot that I do kind of like, and it is maybe priced more in favor of the books, but still a lot of value at plus 850, is Brock Wright. I know he is the second or third tight end behind Sam Laporta and doesn't get a whole lot of reps, but Brock Wright, when the Lions are feeling some type of way about their offense and want to get a special touchdown in there, yeah, they might go to an offensive lineman. They might throw to Jared Goff. But I would think Brock Wright would be the long shot, at least as a tight end of a normal pass catcher in this scenario. And then I do have no problem with any of the guys at plus money. Jeff had mentioned Jair Alexander is going to be out for the Packers, so Amon-Ra St. Brown won't have the number one corner going against him for the Packers. So I have no problem taking Amon-Ra St. Brown at almost even money, minus 105. And then the three running backs that have been monsters this year. I do have Josh Jacobs over touchdown total for the season, so that would help me out if he scores again tonight. And then, yeah, the Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery have been automatic, at least one of the two every single game this year. So putting the two of those together, don't really have a problem with either. Making sure you get a plus price on both those guys.
You can go Jameson Williams too if you wanted to.
Yeah,
I mean there are ways to go about this here in this one with
unlimited big play potential with both of these offenses.
100% plus 190 on Williams, plus 195 on Laporta as well. Just throwing him out there if you wanted to do that as well. All right, quarterback props. Of course, all these numbers via DraftKings.
Yes.
On the numbers. Jordan Love and Jared Goff here tonight. Now, minus 170 to throw a pick for Love?
Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
The same as Jameis was.
Yeah, it seems, look, I get it. That's steep. Don't lay that on the Love end of things. I'm not saying I take the no or the under a half.
Sure.
But that's steep. That is super steep on the Jordan Love interception way of things. There's not much that stands out other than that to me here, Ryan.
So Jordan Love on his interception does have back-to-back no's, but he is 8-2 to the yes.
Yep.
So he had 8 straight games to start the year with an interception, back-to-back no's, but he is going against a Detroit Lions defense in which he did throw an interception in the first matchup just over a month ago. So looking at Jordan Love's pass attempts, 3-7 this year to the over on 33.5 pass attempts. 1 out of the last 4. He did go over in that matchup a month ago. That is the 1 in the last 4. His completions, that 20.5, he's gone over in 5 of his 10 games this year. 2 of the last 4, he did go over in the first matchup. 252.5 passing yards, over in 6 of his 10 starts this season. Over in 3 of the last 4 games, had 273, did go over in that first matchup. Passing touchdowns, 1.5, minus 155, 7 and 3 to the over this year, back-to-back overs. His interception, I had mentioned 8-2, back-to-back no's. His anytime touchdown, the only time he ran into the end zone this year was against my Bears. So 1 and 9 for Jordan Love, anytime touchdown. And then his passing yardage, same thing. He went over in 6 of 10. All 6 overs were entirely by passing yardage. He did have one game with 20 rushing yards, but that did not really contribute to the over because he already went over as a passer. So those are that's what I've got for Jordan Love. And then taking a look at Jared Goff, 32.5 pass attempts, 3 and 9 to the over, but back-to-back overs. Only 22 in the first matchup this season. And then looking at his completions, he had 18 in that first matchup, 3 and 9 this season, over in 2 of the last 3. Looking at the passing yardage, only 145, as Jeff mentioned earlier, in the first matchup, 6 and 6 this season, over in 2 of the last 6. Passing touchdowns, 8 and 4 to the over in 3 of the last 4, only 1. That was the one game that he did not go over in the first matchup. So with those numbers, I tend to think that the Lions are going to go behind or run behind their offensive line, even though they're going to be without Taylor Decker, their left tackle. In this one, I do tend to think that they are not going to rely on Jared Goff or really use him the same way they did in that first matchup, really not making him be a gunslinger, making him be more of a game manager and putting it in the hands of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So I would go under on his attempts, unders on his completions and the yardage. The only play I will actually make though is the under on the attempts. And then, yeah, if we want to take a look over at Green Bay Packers player props, looking at Josh Jacobs, Jaden Reed, and Tucker Kraft. Josh Jacobs has 17.5 attempts as his rushing carries prop tonight. He's gone over in 7 of his 12 games this year, 3 straight overs. And then his rushing yards at 75.5. Again, 7 and 5 to the over. Last week ended a streak of 5 straight overs. So really over in 5 of the last 6 on that yardage prop for Josh Jacobs. 2.5 receptions. Over in 5 of 12 games this season. Has enough targets in 7 of 12 games this season. He is not traditionally a pass-catching back, so I'm not confident in the over on the Josh Jacobs receptions, but I do like the over on his rushing yards, that 75.5. His total yards is at 92.5. He's gone over in 8 of the 12 games, 6 straight overs. He does get a lot of big yardage when he does catch a ball out of the backfield because defenses just aren't expecting it. Jaden Reed, 4.5 receptions, over in 3 of 12 this season. Only once in the last 6 games. 62.5 receiving yards, over in 4 of 12. Only once in the last 7. Longest reception, though, 25.5 yards. 6 and 6 this year. So he does get that deep ball from Jordan Love, and that tends to be the majority of his yardage. So won't fault you for going over on longest reception, but the season history doesn't say over on the other props. Then looking at Tucker Kraft, his reception prop is at 3.5. Don't know if I fully like the over. I do like him to possibly score a touchdown tonight, but 4 catches is asking for a lot because he's only caught 4 in 4 of 12 this season. Gone over on his yardage in 5 of 7. And gone over on the longest catch in 7 of the 12, but only once in the last 4. So the Packers are going to kind of shift their offense. They are going to need a couple big plays in this game to beat this Lions team in Detroit. So no problem seeing it from Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft tonight.
Kraft had been great getting into the end zone up until last week. He has been quite the revelation for Green Bay, basically out of nowhere here this year. That would be the only guy I'd look to play of these 9. 36.5 is low for Kraft. And he's going to be in the offense heavily, and especially no Rodriguez at the linebacker position for the rest of the year with the knee injury for Detroit. Again, they're without a lot of defensive front guys.
Yeah,
here tonight.
4 guys on their defensive front. So, even more for Jacobs.
Reader's the biggest name that is out tonight for Detroit on that end. But, boy, I think you're going to have a lot of time to throw. I'd be looking to and then you could attack anything you want, honestly. Yeah. Jacobs, boy, 75.5 feels high, but I wouldn't want to take the under because of those D-line injuries on that front. And then on the Lions end, I mean, look, very simple for me, Ryan. I'll take those anytime touchdowns with Gibbs and Montgomery put together. I don't know what to do with their numbers. Like, it's so random at this point that, 13.5 and 12.5 feel low, but if Detroit has to chase, you're probably losing both of those because you probably end up with about 20 total carries between the 2 of them in that scenario, Ryan.
Yeah, I tend to not think that Detroit's going to be chasing in this one, though. I think, if anything, it's going to be a back-and-forth game. Sure, we could see a scenario in which we saw the Vikings go up 10-0 on the Lions, and then the Lions just completely steamrolled them in the second quarter and for the rest of that game. So I don't think game script is going to be Packers up a ton, Lions have to throw the ball to get back into it. I do think it is either more of a balanced game or the Lions are able to control the clock to begin with, go score, force the Packers to have a 3-and-out or maybe get 1 first down, and then again run the clock. The Lions, I think, are going to be able to run this game to how they want to, and if the Packers are going to have a chance, they need to not let that happen.
Can't really argue with you on any of that, Ryan. And look, this should be a tremendous game here tonight as we get you ready. We'll get Vinny Magliulo in here in a few moments. But before we do that, Ryan, let's check in with the chat. It's active as always here on a Thursday.
Yeah. So I did say that I do like Tucker Kraft to score a touchdown tonight. And Joey Anselmini let us know that the Lions have only allowed one touchdown versus tight ends this season. So maybe looking to fade my pick, but they could also be due to allow a touchdown to tight ends from our Wonder Woman Ann. So then we also have apparently the YouTube police saying what's up to us, the host and the chat. And then we got Vince Las Vegas letting us know the graphics look good down here in Studio B. Got Jerry Laulea. Laulea was letting everybody know that, I am loyal to my Chicago Bears. So let us know in the chat. We are going to have a poll here pretty soon. Which tight end you think is more likely to score between Sam Laporta and Tucker Kraft? We did have a poll to start the episode. Which team covers tonight between the Lions, that -3, or the Packers plus the 3? And our viewers say that the Lions, 58% of you say the Lions are going to cover the 3 tonight.
Be a good one. We'll get more on that as we go through. Let's take a quick break. Vinny Magliulo will join us next. We'll get the full behind-the-book perspective on this and everything going into college football Conference Championship weekend when we get back. Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy, live from Studio B.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, Triple Sevens, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in. It is Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. I'm Jeff Parles. Ryan McCormick's here. And at the end of the desk, our good friend,
The Hall of Famer.
the Hall of Famer,
Hi, boys. How's it
Vinny
going?
Magliulo. Laptop and all here today.
I have to tell you, I'm always amazed at the technical elements that go into the show and how you and the staff just handle it. I love when we were coming back, and we're coming back in 10 or so.
Maybe sooner.
Maybe sooner.
Perhaps sooner.
That'd
be like me. Listen, tonight's total is 52 and a half or so. I love it. Excellent.
We'll go,
guys,
Vinny will be like the soccer Asian handicaps all of a sudden. You'll be doing 52 and 3/4.
2 3/4.
Yeah, there you go.
Poor Ann back there shaking her head. God, everything was running smooth until Vinny got here. What's up, fellas?
Vinny, tonight, this is, you always say Thursday's the fuse that.
Oh, my
said.
goodness. Let me.
And boy, we have a tremendous game.
Yeah.
And forget that it's just a tremendous game. Mm-hmm. We got a toggler immediately on a key number right out of the chute.
Why not? Why? Well, let's not waste time, right? We may as well just have everybody take 3.5 with the Packers and lay 3 with the Lions, and Hopefully the Lions aren't kicking a field goal.
No,
at the
that's
end
my
of the
job.
game.
Hold on a second. That's my job to make Vinny miserable and saying the game will end Detroit 3.
Speaking of lighting the fuse, we had 4 games that lit the fuse last week, and I'm sure Chris and I, you've heard us talk about Thanksgiving oftentimes. Well, last week was again Thursday is the fuse, and Monday is the powder keg, and it pretty much exploded the other night. So tip our caps to all the bettors out there. You got plenty of cash to start this week. And again, a great game. No question about it, guys. You were talking about it. Terrific matchup. 2 teams that are obviously in the playoff mix right now, and 2 of the 3 best teams in the NFC. Obviously the Packers and the Lions, and of course the Eagles, the way they're playing right now too. So, and right now, current form, even though the division's wide open, the Seahawks seems to have made some good adjustments, particularly with their defense. But this is a game that we're focused on today, and it's not going to disappoint in terms of the betting actions, and hasn't so far.
Anything but Detroit by 3.
Yes, Jeff, we already covered that. Why do you get so much joy out of that?
I can't. I got to bring it up as a requirement.
I'm going to be like Vinny Gecko. Remember, in Wall Street, you had to have the blood pressure.
You mean Gordon Gecko?
Yeah, but I'm going to be Vinny Gecko.
You're going to be Vinny Gecko.
I'm his great nephew.
I mean, Michael Douglas is one of the few people on earth that has as good as hair of you, though. Vinny.
Thank you.
I mean, let's be real. But I'll say this, because when you get a game like this right out of the chute on a Thursday, just what does this do for everything else? Because we have 9 conference championship games on Friday, and then we have, of course, a regular NFL card on Thursday, on Sunday and Monday.
Right. On the one hand, you would say, "Gosh, I wish this game was on the Monday night game, right?" And everything was going to it. But the fact that it doesn't have carryover, maybe a little bit from Monday night, because we had these games up since Sunday, but it's still going to generate a tremendous amount. This will be one of, if not the highest handled Thursday night game outside of Thanksgiving, obviously, right? But when you look at every Thursday, a typical Thursday, given this matchup and these 2 teams, who in recent years have become very public teams. With a lot of support, there's no doubt that this will be one of the heaviest bet Thursday night games, and set the table for the rest of the week. It's a great point, Jeff.
So let's get to the rest of the week before we look at the college games, which again 9 conference title games. We're right now entering a day before these get rolling. The biggest number on the board is 5. So just a very compact college weekend. We do have the regular NFL weekend, Vinny, and it doesn't look like the most attractive slates on the board, but we usually find chaos when that ends up being the case in the NFL.
Absolutely, right? I mean, it's the last bye week, right? So we still have 6 teams on a bye this week.
Yeah, no Baltimore, no Denver, no Houston, no Indy, no New England, no Washington. Somehow we managed to have 4 teams currently in playoff slots not playing this week.
So, but at least we'll get done with them. But when you look at these games, there's been movement on just about every one of them. There's only one game that has not moved so far, and it's the Niners. At home steady is 4-point favorites against the Bears.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Nobody likes my Bears, huh?
Ryan, there's still time.
I'll take the 4.
You know what? I have to tell you, that game I think it'll be a pretty good 2-way betting game for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, you got the injuries and the must-win situation on the regarding the Niners, and a new start really for a new beginning. I don't know if it's a new start yet for the Bears, but that game is held steady in terms of the number and the total. So 4-44 there, but money has shown for the Vikings this week against the Falcons. That game is up a full point to 5.5. Kind of back and forth here. The initial money came in on the Saints, and now got as high from 4 to 5, and now sitting at 4.5. So, and I love to say this.
Oh, do it.
2-way action. That's dedicated to Ann, and because Ann is a true bookmaker at heart. The Jags and the Titans Money for the Jags, even with the Trevor Lawrence.
It's going to be Mac Jones the rest of the way.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence out. Probably, yeah, he's on IR.
He's on IR. He could come back for Week 18, but why?
Why? 4.5 on the opener, down to 3.5. Buccaneers. Money for the Raiders, 6.5 now. We did open the Buccaneers Sunday night.
There is
7.5.
There is a question of Baker's health, of how he's going to play.
He's beat up.
He's on the injury report this whole week.
Saw him even when he scrambled. What a warrior, though, right? Yes. I mean, just hobbling around but making things happen. And again, a very favorable schedule for the Bucs as we hit the stretch. Here's a toggler here. The Steelers. A quick turnaround, right? They just played the Browns a couple of weeks ago. Boy, this Steelers schedule is the most bizarre schedule I've seen in quite some time.
Had a little bit of a meadow the first few weeks, and now got a gauntlet.
They get all their division games in the last 6 weeks of the season, right?
Vinny, I will ask you, I have a question on that game because the NFL has done this more recently for whatever reason, where they do these stupid, you play the same divisional opponent twice in 3 weeks, which I don't get, but it's been a thing that's happened a lot over the last 4 years since they moved to the extra game.
Compared to where you see some teams play each other the first week and then the last week, right?
Week 1 and Week 18.
Make more sense, right? But anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm in a camp of you play each division opponent weeks 1 through 9, and then you play them again on the back. But again, what's logic at this point, Vinny?
There we go.
But when you have a game like this where it was a game everyone watched, because it was a Thursday night matchup between these two teams. Mm-hmm. Everyone's watched Cleveland the last 2 weeks.
Right.
In mega high-scoring games.
Yes.
Pittsburgh also just had a mega high-scoring game, too. Is this one that could get hit late? I know it's been you opened 41.5.
Oh, it's up 2 points already.
And then it went to 44 after we saw Cleveland on Monday. But is this just one of those, do you think the public will just come in blindly and hammer this thing over the next 72 hours or so?
I think yes, but there's also we know there's weather there now, right?
Yes.
I mean, there's really bad weather in the Pittsburgh area right now. I'm not sure how long that front, and if it's followed by another one, comes in. But I don't think it's going to matter, to be honest with you, Jeff. I think that the public is going to continue to support the over, particularly in Browns games.
How about 44 degrees with no precipitation and 6 mile an hour winds?
Guess what? Guess where the total's going?
Yeah, it's going up.
So yeah, that answers your question. If you want that weather question, that total question answered, just check the weather.
No, the weather looks good.
Yeah.
You guys, by the way, lowest total in the markets right there at the South.
It's going to go back up. Trust me. Yeah. Eagles, very impressive, obviously. They're 13 or up to 13 from 12.5. And listen, let's face it, the Panthers playing better. Jets and Dolphins, a little support for the Jets from 6.5
shocking
down to 6.
Hey, the Jets are Purdue. That's what they are, Vinny.
Yeah, there are NFL Purdue.
Keep getting bad, and you're going to just keep losing money. By the way, you saw the feat that the Jets pulled off after last week, right?
Which amazing feat, because there's been so many. Only rivaled by Ryan's Bears.
This is actually, I think, the best one I've ever seen. There are 12 games. The Jets have been favored 9 times at the closing number. They are 3-9. Mm-hmm. They're the first team in NFL history to be reversed. Right. Have 9 losses when they've been favored at least 9 out of 12 games to begin the season.
It's just
keep them coming.
That's
keep
right.
the losses coming, Vinny.
Let them keep, and you want them to keep betting them so that you can lay the.
Oh, last week was a good. Last week was awesome.
Right.
They bet Seattle a plus 120 money line.
Right.
All right, sure.
So
if you insist.
You said it on the air, right? And again, I think that's what folks are going to wait for. Here's the lowest. And the Dolphins are playing better. Listen, the Dolphins not mathematically eliminated, right? When you look at the schedule, right? Yeah. So, Seahawks Cardinals, big game here. This game, the Cardinals now up to 3 from 2.5. I think this one is going to be a toggler during the course of the week. Bills open 4.5 in a very tricky game here. It's down to 3.5.
Weirdo spot for
right?
Buffalo.
I mean, now traveling. Listen, but obviously hitting on all cylinders and never out of a game. So and the total on that one is up to 50. So I think that total will keep going up. Bears and Niners, we mentioned, no change at 4 and 4.5. Chargers, Chiefs, they laid the 3.5. This is a pretty big game, too, which is nice. It's a primetime game in the division. And we know the Chiefs have clinched a playoff spot, the first team to clinch a playoff. Well, I think the Bills also
Bills
have clinched
clinched
it as well. So one of two teams that's clinched, but also looking to maintain that home field advantage over the Bills because the Bills have the tiebreaker with that head-to-head win. So this game from 3.5 up to 4, Chiefs favored there. And then on Monday night, both teams dealing with injuries, even more injuries coming out of both camps.
Yeah.
Between the Bengals and the Cowboys. This game opened with the Bengals as 6-point favorites, now 5.5. This total, I think, will keep going up too. It's 48.5 and now up to 49.5. This has to get through 50 in my opinion.
You have to imagine.
I would think.
But Joe Burrow, by the way, named Offensive Player of the Month, despite the team being under 500.
Yeah.
In the month.
And Jameis was actually could have made a case for Jameis because on Monday night he actually had 6 touchdown passes.
Oh, actually, what was it?
Two of them went to the other team.
What did I send you? Hold on,
Jameis Winston had 691 passing yards.
Yeah.
490 some was to his own team, and then the other 200 was. Yeah.
He had 171 yards against in interceptions.
That's Cy Young's win-loss record. Yeah. Like no one's ever catching that in the NFL.
No chance.
God, yeah, that was ridiculous. Boy. All right, Vinny, before we let you go.
Yeah.
We'll of course, you, me, and Chris will be down here tomorrow to preview everything going into the weekend at 2:00. Studio B, football frenzy on a Friday action. There you go, I got it all. Chris will be right in the Ryan McCormick seat tomorrow.
All right.
So
Cowboy hat and all?
Oh, he has to, right? Chris will have the cowboy hat tomorrow, right?
Yeah, he
has to.
He's got a beauty.
Might be a little hot in here though for the cowboy hat.
Well, we can fan him.
Yeah, we can get it. We'll get a giant leaf in here. Vinny, I said it earlier. 9 conference championship games. The largest line right now is in the Sun Belt, which is a home game for Louisiana, as a 5-point favorite.
Right.
Every other game is sub 5 right now, which will again make this just an absurdly good betting weekend.
Oh, it's been great so far. Yeah. And you mentioned about tonight's game being the kind of the igniter, if you will. This game tonight is going to these games as well. And again, we've been saying all year that with the bigger impact of these conference title games because of the expanded playoff picture. These are going to be bet and booked like playoff games. I mean, these are playoff games, let's face it. I mean, some of these teams are, if they lose this game, they're done. Clemson is done, right? I mean, and several other teams are going to be done. We did have as high as 5.5 on Tulane. The game is down to 4.5. So interesting, 3.5. A lot of support for Tulane early, up to 5.5, and now sitting at 4.5. The total down to 46, and that's a more of a reflection on Army. And anybody thinking about the total on this game thinks that Army maybe not control the pace of the game, but certainly try to impact it with some ball control there. Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State, 3 up to 4 with Jacksonville State favored. Again, that's a home game for them. Home game for Army, by the way, as well. Some of these are at home. Boise, the next one, they're at home as well, holding steady at 4 over our UNLV running Rebels. Total in this game down 2 points to 57.5. Again, I think folks will want to pay attention to weather in that part of the country as well. Jeff, you can check the extended forecast.
Oh, I got you right now. Boise, Idaho, tomorrow night at tip. What is that? 1 hour?
We want Saturday. We want Saturday for that. I'm sorry, for Friday. Yeah. That's the late game tomorrow.
It's just gonna be cold.
Just cold.
It's gonna be cold. It'll be sub-freezing, but no chance of precipitation and no wind.
Iowa State first game on Saturday against Arizona State, and these games are neutral site games here. Arizona State down to 1. Now, interesting. Initial money came in on Arizona State, went up from 2 to 2.5.
So there was a big injury in that game.
Yeah.
Because Jordan Tyson, their best wide receiver, is done for the year, and an injury he suffered in the Territorial Cup last week. That's the most of all the games on the board. That's the most confusing one to me because I'm curious to see how their passing game looks without Tyson. Mm-hmm. But Scatterbo has been under the radar as good as anyone other than basically Genty at the running back position this year. And you have two teams that, Iowa State season was over 2 weeks ago. And now here they are. And Arizona State, we've only mentioned it 30 times on the show through the last few months. Arizona State's win total in conference was 2.5 here.
You know what's interesting about Arizona State is that they were overshadowed as a surprise by how surprisingly good BYU
Correct.
was up until their recent
And Colorado,
defeats.
for that matter.
But Colorado, everybody talked about Colorado, right? But we had anticipated BYU and Arizona State not being in the discussion for the conference championship.
Arizona was
And
16th.
here they are. I mean, this team is playing outstanding. So the game is down to 1, and you mentioned the injury, Jeff. So that's going to come. Certainly, I think it has impacted that. In Detroit, Ohio, and Miami, Ohio, in the MAC championship game, a toggler here, laying 2, taking 2.5 so far. That action will pick up, especially as we get into the weekend starting tomorrow. Georgia and Texas, as big a game as there is. This is a rematch. Another toggler, taking 3 with Georgia, laying 2.5 with Texas. This game in Atlanta, which I think will certainly favor advantage Georgia in that. Now, not necessarily in terms of ticket distribution, but a much more familiarity with the venue, right?
Much easier travel.
Oh, sure.
Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, obviously. But you have also, I don't know if you saw this yet, Bevo's not allowed to make the trip for Texas. He's not allowed.
What are you talking about? They don't have like a substitute? You don't think they have something else in mind?
No,
they have no cow. They have no steers in
SEC.
Georgia.
The SEC is claiming that there's not enough room for Bevo on the sidelines. I mean,
let the controversy continue.
What's the new dog's name?
Well, it's still Ugga, but I don't know what his original name was. I don't know what number Ugga they're on at this point.
Well, I know the last one, Pat. It's a new Ugga.
Yeah, I don't remember. Let's see.
Because the previous, there was the last Ugga, the one that just passed away, and Bevo that had the
yes,
that was the famous
brouhaha.
video.
Yes, they are currently on
Oh my God.
Ugga 11.
11?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Boom was his original name.
Boom. We bring the all right.
Don't do that.
Louisiana
Can we
up to 5. Got as high as 5.5 off the 4-point opener against Marshall. By the way, this is the only home game on Saturday, fellas. I should point that out. So Louisiana from 4 as high as 5.5, and now back up to 5.5, and then back down to 4.5 and 5. So 2-way action on this one, and 1-way action on the total, which is now up a couple of points to 58. Clemson and SMU, I tell you, there's a lot of teams rooting for SMU this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Alabama.
Yeah,
okay, and Tennessee, right? There's teams that are playing for, hoping for an at-large bid. If Clemson wins this game, the question is, does SMU still get an at-large bid? More than likely.
Think so.
I think so.
But if Clemson loses, they're out, and then it opens the door for some of the teams that we mentioned, like an Alabama, like a Tennessee.
I would say Tennessee's. It's bad right now. I think the committee made it pretty clear to us on Tuesday night that it's Clemson or Alabama at this point for that last spot.
So
the one that was floating around today that I think has no chance is if UNLV upset Boise. Could Boise stay in front of Alabama? I just don't see that happening.
Well, you see, that's where you also look at their seeding, and the committee has Boise seeded as number 4 right now,
Well,
right?
yeah, I think what were they, number 10 overall, and they moved to 4 because of the conference championship.
I mean, and it's just, again, I've said it before, and we'll talk about it again tomorrow, guys. There are going to be teams left out that are not going to be in the playoff, and again, it's the format. I'm not critiquing the format, but the reality is there are teams that are going to not be in the playoff that are going to have a higher power rating that would be favored over some teams that are going to be in the playoff.
Yeah.
So that's just, that's part of it. That's their process. And again, at least we've got 12 teams in the postseason this year. But anyway, 2.5, holding steady with SMU favored there. 55 on the total. It's kind of gone back and forth between 55 and 56. And we just went to 3, I think it was last night, on Oregon.
There, yep.
And they took the 3.5 with Penn State against Oregon. And believe it or not, they bet this one under to 49 right now. I suspect that total will go back up.
I'm a little bit interested by because Penn State seems to be a sharper position this week, and maybe I thought it was just a number take on the 3.5, more so than anything. But Penn State is, as we know, has never really showed us anything against high level competition. I don't know. It's so weird at this point because for this game, like in normal circumstances, it would have been like, well, Oregon's might already be in a 14 playoff with all the teams with 2 losses at this point. This may not mean as much, but this for Oregon, I mean, you win this game, you get the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Your path is still technically easier. You're playing one less game, but the weird quirk of it is if Oregon loses this game to Penn State, Oregon becomes the 5 seed. We'll draw either Clemson or the Big 12 champion, then draw Boise State. That actually is an easier run to the semifinal than it is to potentially have to play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl.
I think at some point before the number of playoff teams expands, they may tweak the whether it's not a bracket and it's just reseeding and things like that.
So
something along those lines. I think there'll be a tweaking of the format before there's an increase in the number of playoff teams.
I think it's insane that they're not reseeding already. Personally, you have 10 days in between.
Listen, we got here. I'm not.
No, it's good. Look, we got 12. Right? That's better. I mean, we've talked about it. It's going to be it's going to be an unbelievable betting circumstance. Kick that off on Friday the 20th. So we're.
I mean, think about it. 11 days great games, right, to book. I mean, people are going to.
It'll be NFL playoff games.
I mean, that's exactly how we're going to treat them, and I think that's going to be how folks are going to bet them.
All right, Vincenzo, we'll let you go back to work.
I'm going back upstairs.
Yes, don't get lost.
No, it's not.
Did Jimmy make his way back up there?
Jimmy, I told him to wait outside. I put a chair out there, a banquet chair out there. I said, "Don't leave here until I come back." So I have to go get him.
Vinny Magliulo, everyone. Always a pleasure, Vinny. Thanks.
All right, guys.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll get reshuffled here, and when we come back, Ryan and I will give out our NFL power rankings and our final plays for tonight, right here on Sports by the Book Football Frenzy.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book Football Frenzy. About 10 more minutes for Ryan and I here today. Big thanks to Vinny. Big thanks to all you listening and watching and chatting away here on the Football Frenzy chat. We have poll winners here, Ryan?
Yeah, so 54% of viewers think Sam Laporta is more likely to score a touchdown tonight in the Thursday Night Football matchup. And then I know we were talking about the Jets, and I kind of just had to do it because Vinny had said it earlier this year when the Mets were going on their run, that they were, Metsmerizing.
Okay.
And the Jets have been Jetsmerizing. Just in a worse, it's a Jets fashion. So
it's just end of season, right, Ryan? I mean, that's really what it is more so than anything on that front. All right, I gave you a Nicotero reaction, actually. My mistake. All right, let's go to 1 through 10. Our power rankings on the NFL side of things. We don't have graphics today, so we'll orate them out.
I'm just laughing at Laulea in our chat. So who still has the 5-loss Ravens ranked way too high. If they're still above the Steelers, that's all the confirmation I need that George Hernandez funds the show. That's one of our friends that is a big Ravens fan. And then straight up propaganda. So he's not big on the Ravens.
Hey, I actually have Pittsburgh ahead of Baltimore this week. How about that? How about that? See, take that. There we go. No, in all seriousness, though. Entering this week, I still have Detroit barely ahead of Philadelphia. They're clearly... I know people have been saying Buffalo and all that, but it's clear to me that, and again, it's the NFL. We know anything can happen. Yep. But Detroit and Philadelphia are clearly, to me, 1-2. I was very close to putting Philadelphia ahead of Detroit because of the injuries on the Lions side, Ryan, but I still kept Detroit because I think their offense is still more consistent. Even with how great Barkley's been, Hurts looks like he did 2 years ago again. But Detroit 1, Philly 2. Kansas City, Buffalo. I have Kansas City technically ahead of Buffalo, but if KC screws around again this week and doesn't cover but wins, and Buffalo handles their business and covers against the Rams, that will flip. They're still basically the same at this point, 3-4. Green Bay is the highest they've been for me all year. They're number 5. I have them at number 5. I really do think this is a top 5 matchup here tonight between these two teams in Detroit. Pittsburgh is at 6. Baltimore is at 7. The Chargers are at 8. That's the run of AFC teams. I'm now, and this may be unfair because this is the same criticism for Buffalo too, but win a big game at some point. Win a big game if you're Baltimore. You look at Baltimore this year. You look at the 5 losses. All right, I know the Chargers game, they were a small favorite, and they won that game, so that's good. They clobbered the Broncos, who I still don't, even though they have a good record, they're not in the same class as Baltimore. Yep. They beat Washington, same sort of deal. You look at it, all right, they lost to Kansas City. They did smack around Buffalo, so I will give them that, but more likely than not, they're going to have to go to Western New York in a playoff game.
And welcome in Amari Cooper to that matchup as well.
Yeah, there was no Cooper exactly for Buffalo. You lose to Pittsburgh, you lose to Philadelphia. Hey, beat a high-end team in a big spot as opposed to week 4. Let's see that at some point from Baltimore. And look, that's been the case with Lamar Jackson his whole career. He's been unable to win the big playoff game so far. Chargers at 8. I don't think there's much of a difference between them and the Vikings, who I have at 9. I don't think either of them are going to win anything of significance, but they're still solid playoff teams at 8 and 9. And then Denver stays in at number 10 because I don't know who else I'd put in there. I could put the Commanders, but what did I really learn from them destroying the Titans? Really nothing at all.
Yeah. And I try to do the same thing with Washington, looking at their matchup last week against the Titans. Yeah, they put up 44 to 14, I believe was the final. Mm-hmm. And when you compare that to the number 1 team in the National Football League, the Detroit Lions put up 52 on the Tennessee Titans. So kind of similar on offense. Scored 1 last touchdown, allowed 1 more touchdown. So pretty similar against a team at the bottom half of the National Football League. And that's why I do have the Commanders still in my top 10. They are number 10. I do have the Broncos at 12. Really between 13, because I have the Packers there at 13. 13 through 6 is a 2-point difference because the parity in the NFL is real. And like Jeff said, any given week, any team can beat another. So, I mean, we saw the Panthers compete against the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. So But getting into my top 10, the Detroit Lions are number 1. I do have the Philadelphia Eagles at 2, as well as Jeff. This Eagles team, when healthy, is a very dominant football team. And if you put the Lions and Eagles fully healthy against each other, that would be the game of the year. 100% of the game of the year. And really, I think the only thing that would take away from that matchup and give the other team an edge is if they lose one of their key pieces. If the Lions lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, they don't have much help otherwise at wide receiver. And then if the Eagles lose Saquon Barkley, we saw I guess A.J. Brown, we saw what happened earlier this year. But if they lose Saquon Barkley, we saw in years past, they need that running back to function in that offense. But 1 and 2, Lions, Eagles. And then I did have the Bills hop the Chiefs.
No problem with that.
They just look more well-rounded. The Chiefs are finding ways to win, but aren't convincingly winning games. And I actually do like the Chargers plus the 4 this week. And I do have the Chargers at number 6.
Okay.
So Chiefs 4, Laulea, the Ravens are 5. I just think they're a better team on paper. I know they haven't been able to put it together, prove it on in between the white lines. But when they give Derrick Henry the ball and he's able to produce as Derrick Henry will, they have won their games handily. So they need to shift their focus in their offense to not getting so much chunk plays and just throwing it deep with Lamar Jackson to Zay Flowers or the other receivers. Control the line of scrimmage, give it to Derrick Henry. So the Ravens at 5, Chargers 6, Steelers are 7. Again, between 6 and 12, only a 2-point difference, and really between the Ravens and Steelers, a point difference. So a point and a half. And I know the Steelers won head-to-head, so oh well. The Vikings are at 8 for me. Really in between this Steelers, Vikings, Texans is where I do have the asterisks. So yes. And then the Texans at 9. They did struggle to win this past week. They did escape. But I think that team on paper with DeMeco Ryans as their head coach, their defense is always going to have them in games with Derek Stingley Jr., with Will Anderson. And their offense just needs to produce and have Nico Collins on the field, and CJ Stroud will find him. So still have the Texans at 10, Texans 9, Commanders 10. And then, man, I really wish the Buccaneers had healthy wide receivers because they're still at 11 for me.
High on Tampa. Again, I think that whole division is terrible at this point in the NFC South. But, yeah, look, I think at this point, Philadelphia, we both have them separated. Philadelphia and Detroit have separated themselves from the pack, at least in the league, which if we get that NFC title game, we've done very well for ourselves if we end up getting that when it's all said and done here. All right, before we get out of here, again, I'm taking the Packers tonight. I'm taking them outright. I do think they pull the upset here tonight, get to double-digit wins, and the Lions, who are, for the first time in franchise history, 11-1, fall to 11-2 tonight, Ryan.
Well, I won't be putting any money on the Packers, but I will put money on Josh Jacobs to go over his rushing yards total tonight, even if you are tempted on his rushing and receiving yards at 92.5. He's gone over in 6 straight. And then, yes, we had mentioned earlier in the show, the Lions are without several members on their defensive front. Linebacker, defensive tackle got put on injured reserve without a defensive end and another defensive tackle. So Josh Jacobs should have a good amount of lanes tonight to run through. And then just one final note really on these head coaches. Matt LaFleur took over for the Packers in 2019. In 2019-2020, the Packers were 4-0 against the Lions, 1-3 against the spread. The total went over in 1 of those 4 games. Since then, since Dan Campbell took over as the head coach for the Detroit Lions, the Lions are 5-2 straight up, 5-2 against the spread, and the total has gone over in 4 of those 7. Both over in 2021, both under in 2022, both over last year, went under in game 1 this year. So depending on how you think that flip-flop theory will work, could go under tonight. But most confident play would be Josh Jacobs over his total. And then one final note on Dan Campbell as a home favorite, 16-4 straight up, 13-7 against the spread. Total is 13-7.
Pretty amazing that Campbell inherited the worst team in the NFL and has actually
went 3-13 in his first year.
Well, they had to, don't forget the tie in that too, Ryan. But
and still has done as incredible a job.
That's what I'm saying.
Flipped
Like
around,
the fact that they've been favored in 20 games already at home is kind of crazy. Just shows how good they've been since that. Just again, and they were 1-6 also in year 2. So it's been really just an amazing job Dan Campbell and company have done there in Motown, taking
Ben Johnson,
honestly again, we think of the Jets, we think of the Browns. The Lions were the loser franchise.
Yeah.
Period. The biggest loser franchise in the NFL, and now they're not. Now they're legitimate Super Bowl favorites here in 2024. All right, Ryan, good work as always. Shout out Ann, Jerry, Sean, Vince, Drew Dog, everyone involved for at least being able to get us on the air here today down here in Studio B. Tomorrow, football frenzy on a Friday. Vinny Magliulo, Chris Andrews. I guess we'll get Jimmy in here. I might have to leave when Jimmy comes in, but they give Jimmy a seat on the desk. But we'll have all that at 2:00 tomorrow. May not be as long as usual because there's less games, but we will be here at 2:00 getting you rolling for the weekend ahead in both college football and the NFL. We'll see you next time right here, Sports by the Book, Football Frenzy.